Okay, hopefully y'all can see from this angle. Now that we've got our pieces glued together, we need to stitch them. This pair of stitches from here all the way to here, and the toe cap is unstitched. This was the original thread. I saved it so that we can reuse it. And all we need for this really is this out here. I sell this on my website. It's $10 shipped, and it comes with a couple different needle attachments. So if you need one, go grab one, and I will get it to you. But we're gonna start this by threading this through here, and then we need kind of like a thread to like reinforce this with on the inside. We're gonna use this plain white thread. I also have this on my website. This is what I use for standard like white Air Force One midsole. I'm actually gonna turn this way because I want to tie this end here, because this isn't gonna be as easy to use as the other end. You always have to be really careful when reusing the original thread, because there's just not a lot of room for error as far as like how much thread you're gonna have to work with. Oh shit, I think I might have just fucked that up. So I kind of absent-mindedly just did that. And that's not how you're supposed to start. So we're gonna go ahead. We've got this one in our thread here. We're gonna take this, we're gonna put it through the old punch hole. If you've lined it up well, it should slide in smoothly through the previous punch hole in the upper. Now that we've got that through here, we're gonna pull it back a little bit. We're gonna pull on the left side. Alright, so we're gonna pull that left side through here. Come on. Perfect. Alright. So we got that how we want it. Now we take this side and we tie them together. If you tie them together like I did previously before you stitch it into the shoe like that, like you're not going to be able to get it in there. Okay. I don't know what I was thinking when I did that. I was zoned out, I guess. Always want to double knot it. A little hard to work with when it's in multiple threads like that, but we'll get it. Hang on, this is pissing me off now. There we go. Okay, so now we're gonna take this, we're gonna pull it here, and we're gonna start stitching. So we're gonna take this, put it into the next hole, and then pull it out a little bit. Hopefully you can see in there. When I pulled back on that, when I push in, it's tight around the edges here. When I pull back a little bit, you get a little bit of wiggle room there. You want to put your finger in that left side hole and then pull it. And then we want to kind of give it a little tug like that to make sure that it's tight. And then we put this through that loop, grab the other side, and pull tight. And there you can see we got our first stitch in place. And we're just gonna repeat that process until the last stitch, and then we'll do something a little different on the last stitch. But this is real easy. You just put your finger in that loop, pull, and And then you always want to make sure that you're pulling this tight, so you got the tightest stitch line possible. Put that back through the loop, and then we tighten it here. Now we've got our second stitch in place. And so it's real simple. It's not hard to do at all. Some people do this by machine. I like the control of doing it by hand. I trust my hands more than the machine. The machine can make errors. My hands obviously could make an error, but I don't know. I think that the likelihood is a lot higher with the machine. I trust my hands. Okay, stitch number 4. And honestly, I just don't really see the point of machinating this part of the process. It goes fast enough by hand. Really, like, there's only a couple pitfalls that you want to look out for here. If you're stitching an older sole, the sole might become weak over time. And so if you're putting too much pressure when you go to tighten it, sometimes it'll snap like this. That little thin piece in between your holes that holds the stitch, sometimes the stitch will cut straight through that if it's a really old sole with a weak spot. That can really throw a wrench in your swap. It can be really difficult to fix that. Sometimes you'll end up having to get a new sole. That happened with a swap I was doing recently. That's why these lasers over here have been sidelined for so long, because we need to get a new sole for them to do a complete sole swap after that pulled through on the original. But I don't think that's going to happen with this pair. This pair is very well conditioned, and we've got a really clean fitment here. So we're just going to keep going stitch by stitch, and we'll get through to the other side soon enough. There's another one. And as you go, you kind of just get into a rhythm. If you notice that you're having to put a lot of pressure into the stitch, that means it's not aligned with the stitch hole. That can be, it can be concerning depending on what kind of swap you're doing. If you're doing a complete sole swap where you're putting a completely different sole onto a different upper, like a 2022 triple white onto like the lasers for instance, you probably are going to have a couple holes where it doesn't line up perfectly, and that's okay. They're two different pieces from two different factories, so it's not really going to perfectly align. But with a shoe like this, where we're just doing a reglue and we're not really exchanging any pieces here. We're just, taking off the old glue, putting new glue in, and then restitching it. So everything on this one should align perfectly. If you're having to put too much pressure in, that means that something's probably not aligned, and that you're trying to put, basically punch a new hole with the owl, which shouldn't happen on a job like this. But you can see here, I'm not really having to put a lot of pressure into any of these stitches here. It just kind of just slides right in, and that's because we're going right back into the previous holes that were put into this shoe in the factory. We probably could go faster. I don't like rushing anything when I'm working on this stuff. Sometimes things move faster when you take your time. And you always want to treat like all these rare shoes as carefully as possible. Around here is where reusing the thread starts to get really annoying. So when you're reusing the thread, you have a very finite amount, and you need to make it work so that it, you know, looks as close to factory as possible. And what starts to happen as you're moving along here is that this end gets very close to pulling out through the awl, and it's really a pain to like re-thread it. So you want to keep an eye on that like while you're stitching, to make sure that it's not pulling through, so that you don't have to constantly keep re-threading it. And that's my least favorite part really about like reusing the thread. And you'll see when we get to the other side, it's gonna get really tight as far as like what our room for error is. With a colored thread like this, you're just never gonna really find a perfect color match. You know, Nike has all these like really niche colors that they're using, different shades of greens and oranges. And so for this one, you will really want to make sure that we're able to just reuse the original, so that we don't have to worry about that. But we're making progress. And just keep putting one stitch in front of the other. Shit. Yeah, I just poked through. You'll notice that earlier, before like when I started to stitch this, I made a point of putting that end with all like the loose frayed ends inside, because if we had that end over here right now and it started to pull through, it would be nearly impossible to get it re-threaded with all those loose ends like that. So you always want to make sure that the cleanest end of the thread is the one that you're going to be stitching with, and the one with all those loose ends is the one that's going into the shoe. Okay. There we go. Pull tight. And hopefully I haven't pulled this like out of the frame or anything. Move this over a little bit. But yeah, it takes a little bit of time. Not too bad though. This is actually one of my favorite parts of the process. There's something really like peaceful and methodical about stitching it. And like at this point in the swap, you know whether like the swap has kind of failed or not. Like if the placement is off, you're gonna know by now. And if the placement is off, that means you need to take it apart, re-prep it, and redo it. This pair, feel good about our placement. Looks clean. We might need to touch up some of the glue line, but that's something that can be handled later. Now I am getting a little worried here because we're going to be very tight. Our margin of error here is very small. But I think we can do it. But yeah, I much prefer doing like a white thread over reusing a colored thread, just because with a white one you can cut it however big you want it, and then you don't have to worry about pulling it through. You can just make sure you got a bunch of excess on the end, and then try to reuse the excess later if you can. I'm not sure how many stitches it is, but usually it's like somewhere between 40 to 60. We're cutting it close. I wish I'd given myself a little more leeway on the other side. But you can't really tell until you're at this point that it's going to be an issue. So close. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We got 15 stitches left. Okay. This is 14. Let's see. Will we make it? It's kind of nerve-wracking now. That gets us to 13. Eleven. 10. Yeah. 9. 10. be tough. This is gonna be tough. Seven. You're gonna see my skills put to the test here. But with only 7 left, we're determined to get this one done. Six. Fuck. 5. 5 stitches out. Woo! It might have looked weird, but I needed to like wet the thread a little bit. Four. Woo! 3. Come on, work with me. Got it. 3. Getting creative here. Oh no, we're getting this through the loop. But we got it. 2 stitches left. Desperately trying not to pull this through because this is almost so small that I can't rethread it. Okay, we got this through the loop. I think we're good. Pull that nice and tight. Okay, we're down to the last stitch here. We have this much to work with. What we're gonna do here is a little different than what we've been doing before. So we're gonna put this in here, like that, and we're gonna let it pull through this time. We want it to pull through. So take the owl back out, it's empty, threads in, pull it tight. Alright, so now we got that as tight as we can. We need to tie these together. Our white inside string and what's left of this orange thread. And we, I think, have just enough. So we cut this about as close as you can cut it. But we're gonna pull this tight, and then this is gonna hold all the stitches in place. And then I always knot this because I don't want it to just have one holding it in. Okay. And it's a bit hard to see what you're doing at this point, but you can see we have that pulled tight and knotted. And now we take this, cut the excess, throw it off, kind of lay these down flat, and you can see inside, inside got a nice clean stitch line, goes all the way around, white on the inside, orange on the outside, just like factory, matches the back. And so what we're probably gonna do next is I'm gonna go ahead and just put the heat on the sides one more time, and this stitch is gonna kind of act like a clamp and help hold it into place and really seal that bond. And then all we need to do after that to make sure that these are wearable again is we'll tighten up this toe box up here. So we'll do that either later tonight or tomorrow, and we'll remove any, like, if there's any old glue left, we'll take a pair of tweezers, tweeze it out, and we'll take this tool here, get some glue, line it into the cracks like that, and then we'll heat it, cleanse it tomorrow. But these should be good to wear again in a couple days. Hope that was helpful. Hope I didn't pull it into too many weird camera angles. Sometimes I kind of just lock into what I'm doing and forget that there's a camera running that I need to make it all visible for. But I think that turned out pretty good. It's a little tight at the end there, but I mean, you can see the fitment looks nice. Nice and even on the back. Nice and even at the toe. I mean, obviously a little bit of a gap, but you know, placement wise, it's perfectly placed. And no glue line showing on the edge. So this one is a success. We'll touch it up, but you know, feel good about where this re-glue's at right now, and we got some good progress for this project. But thanks for watching. Hope it was helpful. Hope you learned something about the stitching part of the process. A lot of people have told me that's the hardest part for them, and really it's just like getting into a rhythm with what I was doing earlier. Once you got that down, really the stitching becomes one of the easiest parts of the process. So good luck. Feel free to reach out if you got questions or anything. Be sure to like, subscribe, all of that to help boost the page, and I will see y'all again soon.